Hey everybody, we're going to have a different type of video today for the Daily Draw. So if any of you were on my, or just on Instagram at around 5 a.m. this morning, you probably noticed I was posting a bunch of dumb little 5 a.m. doodles, because last night was one of those nights where I woke up at 3 and the creative muse was there and I just could not get back to sleep. So I got up and started drawing. I started out with the OC I'm trying to figure out right now. Her name is Flo. She may or may not be. Okay, so buckle up, because this is a longer video, and it's gonna be a weird one, because I'm gonna talk about my OTP of all OTPs that may or may not be making a definitely completely original story based off of, that's definitely not just remaking these OCs and doing like a very, very complicated alternate universe story. You know how it is. So this OC here that I'm trying to figure out the design for is Flo, who is based off of Florina from Fire Emblem Ken. And I'm just gonna go ahead and be very straightforward about that, because that's absolutely what I'm doing. I am just making a very convoluted robot Fire Emblem AU. So for those who don't know what Fire Emblem is, I'm just going to start at the beginning here. So, Fire Emblem is a turn-based war strategy game that, if you've ever heard of, like, the Advanced War series, there are a couple other series that did the same top-down, just kind of grid-based battle system. The reason Fire Emblem as a series has persisted longer than many of these other types of strategy games is because they have the gameplay mechanic of having, first of all, you have individual characters instead of just units, whereas like in Advanced Wars it'll be like, oh, here's your tank unit number 5, and then your, like your soldier ground unit number 7, and you just constantly go through units, and it's more about like it's more about the cost of everything, actually, in like the in-game currency is your priority in a game like that. Whereas Fire Emblem, every one of your units is an individual character with a backstory, and you can have your units, if you place them next to each other, they can have support conversations, and then depending on who you have support each other, everyone has different endings and can end up with different people. So it's the original Fire Emblems especially, I know they've gone a little more waifu simulator with it, which is not my favorite type of game, but the old school Fire Emblems were very much about knowing and loving every single one of your units as the tactician character, which was your self-insert character, but they couldn't be shipped with anyone. Anyway, so you love and care about each one of these units because they have these intricate backstories, and you care about their futures and getting them with the people that you think make them happiest, and it becomes very much about trying to keep every single character alive, and you really, really care about, like, cutting down casualties as much as you can. In fact, I don't think I've ever completed a Fire Emblem game without resetting multiple times to make sure I don't kill anyone, because I know I have to play as pacifist a run as I possibly can in this war strategy game, because that's just the type of person I am. But so, man, sorry, we're driving through some like really pretty orchards and stuff right now, so I'm also kind of distracted looking at that. Sorry, I'll pay attention to the video here. So, the two characters I've drawn, the first one I drew back there with the big fluffy hair that I did not get a good picture of her, so I redrew her a couple times, and I have such a hard time drawing her. But anyway, that was Florina. She is a Pegasus Knight, and then the character I'm drawing right now is Lindis, and Lindis is she's the main character for the tutorial of Ken, and then she's just like one of the 3 main characters for the rest of the game. but she is a nomadic plainswoman who, okay, so spoiler alert for Fire Emblem Reckonokan. I'm going to go into some plot details. So, by the way, this next drawing I'm working on, I'm trying to figure out Florina again. I have a decent time getting her facial expressions okay, but I cannot figure out how I want to stylize her hair, because she's got this, like, ludicrous, like, huge fluffy hair that's just so fun to draw in so many different ways, but I can never draw it 2 ways consistently, and I'm trying to come up with a semi-consistent style for it, just for the sake of, like, readability, I guess, in what I'm working on here. But anyway, so geez, I don't even know what I was talking about, but Lindis and Florina. Florina is from the mountains and very, very timid. She's canonically just absolutely terrified of men in general. She'll, at the beginning of the story, she will, like, there's a point where she actively, like, a man taps her on the shoulder, and, like, he's on your team, and, like, someone she knows, and she's still like, that is a man, and, like, runs and literally hides behind Lindis, and it's adorable, and it's good. But anyway, so Florina's a Pegasus Knight. She's from the mountains, and it's cold, and she comes down to train at some point, and meets Lindis, who's, like I said, Lindis lives on the plains. She is a very, I have a hard time coming up with just, like, 1 or 2 adjectives to describe Lindis, because she is a very complicated and deep character, and I know I've got 14 minutes to try to talk about my ship here, and I'm nervous to do it, because I've been put down a few times in my life by several people, some who are, you know, important people to me, about this ship, and about shipping in general. Okay, so my personal history with Fire Emblem and with Lindis and Florina in general here is Fire Emblem and their shipping mechanic, technically within the game, even if you have Lindis and Florina end up together, they're not technically a couple. They, so Florina, you know, leaves her family behind and moves away from the mountains and moves to the plains with Lyn. And Lyn, I don't think I've actually gotten to that in I'm really bad at telling the story. Y'all should just really play the game. The Fire Emblem games are really good. But so Lyn finds out in her story that she's, you know, while she is from the plains, her mom actually moved there and was, like, the heir to a country, and now, like, she's the only living relative besides, like, her crazy uncle who's poisoning people and terrible. So everyone's like, hey, Lyn, you gotta go rule that country. And she's like, oh, cool, yes, I am a person of the people, and if there is responsibility on me, I will take care of that. So but no, if you have the ending with Lindis and Florina together, Lindis gives up her entire country there, and Florina gives up her knight training and her family, and they move together to the plains, and live together and are good friends forever, and definitely don't ever get married, because, you know, it was early Nintendo. It was a Game Boy Advance game, and the world was not ready to just let the lesbians be lesbians back in the day. But that was good enough for my poor, young, closeted Mormon self to be playing this game and be able to ship the heck out of these characters without knowing that's what I was doing, because, you know, in my mind, they were just good friends that I was very obsessed with their friendship. And I was very, very in the closet, to the point that when I came out to myself, I actually, like, thought that I was transgendered before I thought that I was a lesbian, just because I didn't know that was a thing. Like, I didn't know that a girl could love a girl or could be with a girl, and I thought, like, oh, I like girls, so I guess I'm a man, you know? And I've since realized I'm not. I'm very comfortable with my body the way it is. I think I'm much more gender neutral, maybe a little fluid, but I'm happy with my body how it is, at the very least. But anyway, so my poor, dumb, young Mormon mind, I'm playing through Fire Emblem, and I'm seeing these cuties be just so good, and yet they're definitely not gay ending, and it was the first even close to gay representation I'd ever seen, and I didn't know why I associated with these characters so much, but I did, and I may or may not have written a, like, very, very, very in the closet and cringy and first thing I'd ever written. Oh, it's so bad. So yeah, I have a
genuine piece of art.
I have a 300-page comic about these characters that isn't even close to getting into the depth of, you know, what my poor, and it was a coping mechanism for me. It was, you know, I identified very heavily with Florina because she's very timid and she's very unsure of herself, and she's a little Pearl-esque from Steven Universe, not personality-wise, but in the so low on her own self-esteem that she would accept the love of anyone, even if it was someone that didn't care back for her. You know, and that's very much how I felt at that time. But at the same time, I also associated very heavily with Lindis, who is, you know, someone who is, you know, she has a very good head on her shoulders, but she has never had to deal with any of, like, the politics and the, you know, she lived by herself on the plains for, I think, a few years before the story takes place, because, like, her entire village was wiped out. So she's a very, like, not a simple person, but a very just down-to-earth, very calm person who just, more than anything, just wants to, you know, just go live in a field and, like, maybe have a little herd of goats and sheep and, like, maybe have a little orchard, and then just, you know, live off the land and be part of the land and just have a good, calm life. But then, you know, duty demands that she go join a freaking war because, you know, it's a Fire Emblem game. It's about, you know, the politics of the countries and how everyone's kind of dragged into this conflict, you know? I really do adore the Fire Emblem games for how they use the gameplay mechanics to really put you in a mindset where you are caring about these characters as deeply as they possibly could. You know, they did what they could to make each individual an individual, and so many games don't do that. And that's part of why I don't love the new Fire Emblem games. I haven't played much of the new Fire Emblems. Like I said, Rekka no Ken was my jam. So that's the one I keep going back to. But from what I have played of the new ones, again, and especially the app game is just a collectathon. And, like, if that is your thing, that's awesome. There are a ton of cool characters in the Fire Emblem game, so doing a collect-em-all type thing is a cool thing. But for me, I just really don't love the objectification that happens and how much they cease to be characters and just become character designs, if that makes sense, when it's not in a story that's based on the story. So I didn't love the newer Fire Emblem games because to me they just became a let's see how many cool, quirky, cosplayable characters we can fit in this one game, and then when we sell the trading cards, everyone will need all of them. Whereas in the old ones, it was just you had this small little group of, like, 30 people, and that was your whole army, and you loved every single one of them, and you hoped they all made it through this thing. So anyway, so I identified with both Lindis and Florina when I was in the process of coming out to myself, and then I could give them as canon as it got back then. And honestly, nowadays too, most games don't let you get that canon gay ending, which they should, but I don't know, I have a lot of feelings about these characters. I don't know, this is kind of a weird new type of video, but thank you for watching. Let me know if you guys want to see more lynflo, or if you want me to never do a video like this again. I know it's been weird. Anyway, thank you guys. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.